Hello, everyone. This is a book haul, and starting straight away, a recent purchase by me, Umberto Eco's Faith in Fakes, Travels in Hyperreality, which probably sounds fairly typically Umberto Eco.
A man of reason in a world of blind faith.
Yes, small blood here.
You mean that he committed suicide?
Elementary.
And a crime that could not be suppressed.
Ink stains.
He did not write with his tongue, I presume.
I don't like this place.
I find it most stimulating.
Yes, so one of the things about this book is when he says very early on in the preface, and this is really kind of, I think, sums up the book to some extent. Perhaps it sums up Umberto Eco. Perhaps it sums up, or at least challenges us to think about where we are, what we're doing, what we're thinking, what we're saying about our lives and our lives as part of wider society. And it reads like this. My way of being involved in politics consists of telling others how I see daily life, political events, the language of the mass media, sometimes the way I look at a movie. I believe it is my job as a scholar and a citizen to show how we are surrounded by messages, products of political power, of economic power, of the entertainment industry, and the revolution industry, and to say that we must know how to analyze and criticize them. It's got to be an engaging book. There's my version of it. 276 pages or so of no doubt interesting stuff.
Had someone else not chosen to look in the wrong direction, several men of God might still be with us. Other monks will meet their deaths here.
The second book that I picked up today is got a sticker that's still stuck to it, but not anymore. Macmillan, Volume 2. Macmillan, 1957 to 86, which is when he passes away. Volume 2 of the so-called official biography by Alistair Horn. So it's not a little thing. Although in this hardback version, although it seems like it feels like a chunker, but it's not. It's just a little over 600 pages. So yeah. It came out in 1989, only 3 years after he passed away. And standing in the bookshop and looking at it and thinking, yeah, okay, I'm going to buy this, aren't I? Because, well, it's only £1.50 and there's going to be some value in it, isn't there? And there's value in all books. So why not if they're £1.50? Just pile them up. Even spend just an hour with every book that you own. Hey, at £1.50 you must have found some value, and so forth. And there's ways of skimming and speed reading bits and generally kind of cherry picking out of the fundamental bits and pieces of information that a book might have, depending on how much human waffle is abstracted into them, shall we say. So, yeah, reading just 4 pages, a little way into it, and political rhetoric. Can I describe it as political rhetoric? Are a lot of these things political rhetoric? Do any of them really say that much? That's sort of kind of reliable, that's really properly kind of, I'd like to have, to be able to carry out my own research. I'd like a grant to write this book, but for myself, kind of thing. That one. Is that book this? Are any of these political books, anything like that? And how about none of them are? How about absolutely none of them are? including this one. Now, again, I'm sort of harking back to my amusing kind of idea of too quick to judge via the too quick to judge tag. But of course, we are humans. We started out in caves or on savannas, and there's that whole thing of fight or flight, and we got 7 seconds to really decide whether or not what to do about things. Whether or not to flight or fight. Yeah, ugh. So, playing on that idea with things like this. I read 4 pages of it, and it's not really kind of truthful enough. It's not. The main challenges that we have been working on today in the cabinet rooms has been inflation, and whether we really can get the better of inflation and really cycle that tight rope between doing the best we can for the economy and the best we can for welfare. Yes, I think that's it. In those parameters, of course. So we go forward from this meeting to, which idiot from the Treasury hasn't marked my page? Blighters. What's this? No, we don't want that. What was it? A bloke called Fraser made some recommendations. He did. Apparently they seemed a little bit like the recommendations brought in by the Thatcher government for the economy. And it says, rather kind of softly, gently, perhaps even in a genteel way, that Mr. Fraser had met Mr. Macmillan and realised that he had indeed, shall we say, out of here, heeded his recommendations, but that poor old Supermac had found the solution to be rather elusive. Right? Which means what? Which means, in other words, he may well have heeded the recommendations, but obviously he didn't implement them. Basically throwaway lines like that. Yeah. What a load of rubbish. What a load of rubbish. And this is the point I have with things to do with politics. People just waffling away, supposing that they're really smart and that somehow they can pull the wool over all our eyes and get, I don't know, what is it? Yeah, 1895 sterling. 25 King dollars for this, 35 years later, it's £1.50 to me. Yeah, could be rather disappointing. And kind of sort of, yeah. What was it? Time is money. Isn't that the thing? We could spend endless hours reading newspapers and things political, perhaps even history and certainly political books like this, like biographies of prime ministers. I was kind of hopeful. I was perhaps overly optimistic that I'm going to find lots of nice, interesting bits and pieces of value to be found in that. And basically, yeah, I don't think so. I mean, let's say that BMW and Mercedes and French car companies were doing okay in the 50s and into the 60s. But as it says, English management or British management were complacent and inefficient. Miraculously. I don't know how they could possibly be complacent and inefficient while their French counterparts and German counterparts were miraculously doing quite well. Or is it because the very cream of the crop was heading into the city and everyone else is just complacent? Yeah, they are. Everyone else, all the rest of us are just complacent? Shut up. What a load of rubbish. Anyway, it brings me on to this one. So this is also a kind of olderish book. Quite nice condition. And I kind of sort of thought, well, I walked away from it to begin with. 1973, read a couple of pages, wasn't impressed, but I went back and it's still there a week later, read another couple of pages, thought, yeah, I'm going to buy it. I think it's probably going to be pretty good. And yeah, it says on the back, Cromwell, fine achievement, scholarship, writing, magnificent, blah, 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 blah. Her aim was to humanize Cromwell, and this is precisely what she has achieved. She presents us with a more more human and real portrait than Victorian authorities. Oliver Cromwell has had greatness of soul and was made on an epic scale. It is irresistibly readable, apparently. For example, and I suppose, well, yeah, Lady Antonia wishes us to know that Cromwell was no tyrant, was not ambitious, had a bursting conscience, and was civilized. The evidence she has assembled is overwhelming, which is also interesting. That was from the Sunday Times, oddly enough. But in her own words, in the preface, she writes, to write the biography of Oliver Cromwell is admittedly an ambitious undertaking in view of the wonderful wealth of material on the subject in existence, to say nothing of the living giants of 17th century research who stalk the land. I hope it may not seem presumptuous. My aim has, however, and this is it really, been a different one from that of the scholars from whose works I have derived such benefit. I have wished more simply to rescue the personality of Oliver Cromwell from the obscurity into which it seemed to me that it had fallen. Just because there has been such an invaluable concentration on the political and social trends of the age in which he lived, it is at least possible to claim that Cromwell was the greatest Englishman. How about that? So this is yeah, nice book, lots of it. This one really is a chunky. This is over 800 pages of text, and there are various white bands in there, and they are the color plates. No, they're not. They're black and white. Okay. I thought they were color. Why do I think they're color? Anyway, they're not color. They're black and white. They're black and white plates, though. Anyway. So there we are. There's Antonia Fraser's Cromwell, Our Chief of Men, which includes a new introduction by the author. So this one is... Why can't I find it? Yes. Reissued, 2008. Wait a minute. First published in 1973, reprinted 2002, reissued 2008. Yeah. So it's just got a little extra, they call it a preface for the 2008 edition. So, as to her claim that could he be the greatest of Englishmen, I mean, there is two statues and two statues only to be found of preeminent people, preeminent men in the environs of the Houses of Parliament in London. One of them is Richard I, the King of England, and the other one is Oliver Cromwell. So there we are. Perhaps the best of kings and the remedy for the worst of kings. So there we have it. There's that one. And the last book is kind of sort of out of interest. It is a book about Edward Elgar. And this book is a 1950s publication with the kind of the text. Now, isn't this sort of kind of isn't this sort of Art Deco-ish? Isn't that what it is? It looks familiar. It's a sort of a kind of a font that is not fancy. It's not kind of baroque in any way. It's much more kind of almost like a democratic kind of font. A bit Art Deco, or is it just simply brought in and became popular or used in the 30s, perhaps a bit before, in England. But anyway, yeah, it's an interesting book. First published in 1955. It's called Edward Elgar, His Life and Music by Diana McVeigh, or McVie. And it's divided into two parts. The first part is sort of a biography, and the second part is about his music. What does it actually say? Yeah. The life, the music. So, for instance, it says, among Elgar's earliest compositions were those written for the church choir of St. George's in 1876. When he was 19, they are exactly the sort of thing that any English provincial organist in that year might have written, except that they are more fluent than the average untrained 19-year-old might be expected to produce. The part writing is sedate, with an occasional chromatically altered note at cadences. There are fugato passages, tidily worked out. There are suave solos for the sopranos, joined later by the altos a third below. They are extremely singable, and St. George's must have counted itself fortunate in its organist. Yeah, one of the curious facts of life about Edward Elgar, that he was never formally trained in music at all. So it would seem, from what I've picked up so far. So there's that one. That's a library borrow for me. So I have a look at that and see what the old fellow is on about. It says his grandfather was a builder. After the death of William IV, Queen Adelaide was living near Worcester and needed someone to tune her pianofortes. And W.H. Elgar, that's Elgar's dad, basically, who was described here as a personable and well-mannered young man of 19, was chosen to do so. And from there, he opened a shop selling pianos and being a piano tuner for the area. And obviously, perhaps for the rather well-to-do as well. So, yeah, that's sort of a little bit of Edward Elgar's background. So, should be pretty interesting. There are a couple of other books, but I think I'll probably do that for another book haul and try and make it sort of coherent and as per usual. So, there we are. That's enough from me. Bye for now.